let's bring in Chris Gunness, director of the Myanmar Accountability Project, joining us live from London. Chris, the fact that these people fled, they had their lives turned upside down, villages burned to the ground in Rakhine State, and now they face additional clashes. I mean, they're the collateral damage to these battles once again.
Yet again, civilian life in Myanmar is caught in the crossfire. And this has escalated since the coup in February last year. To be very clear, in Rakhine State alone, according to the UN, over 17,000 people have been displaced by the recent fighting, displacing over 90,000 in the state. Now, already about 600,000 people had been forced from their homes and are living in camps. So a terrible humanitarian situation for civilians. The UN is effectively blocked by the junta, and now you've got this upscaling of tensions between the Arakan army and the Tatmadaw, the Burmese army, which, as we've heard from your very good report, has sent shells into neighbouring Bangladesh, which is why people like myself say the UN must be more robustly involved. This is a threat to international peace and security, with refugees, people being attacked in Bangladesh, refugees in Thailand, in India, in China. Myanmar has become a threat to international peace and security, and these latest clashes are symptomatic of that very thing.
Also, human rights groups have been critical of Bangladesh, especially recently, and not only not protecting the people that they've given shelter to, but actually abusing them in some documented cases. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we have to get this into some kind of context. I mean, of course, we condemn these abuses of refugees are appalling, and any abuse of the and violations of the Refugee Convention are condemnable. But Bangladesh is an extremely poor country. It's been playing host since the genocide in 2017 and actually a bit before.
Right.
Million or so refugees. With the Ukraine crisis, we've seen huge inflation inside Bangladesh. Name me another country that would take in 1 million refugees. Just had a debate about London. You know, we're having a debate about flying vulnerable people back to Rwanda. Here is Bangladesh, one of the poorest countries in the world, that's taken in about 1 million people.
Yeah, and describe what life is like for these people living in these camps. They're essentially stateless, right?
Yes, I mean, I've worked in Palestine. Nobody wants to be a refugee. Being a refugee is an appalling fate. Refugees want nothing more than to go home and to live in peace and harmony in their homes. The camps in Bangladesh are appalling, and that is why people are making desperate attempts to flee by boat. Almost every week there's a new report of Rohingya refugees being drowned as they try to make these perilous journeys by sea. In the camps, the humanitarian situation is absolutely appalling. Education is a problem, sanitation, housing, huge humanitarian problems. But of course, they can't go back home. People say, and I think with some justification, that the genocide has continued. You've got these genocidal policies which have escalated since the coup last year. So these people are trapped between a rock and a hard place.
Bangladesh has issued warnings about these, what appear to be incursions over the border into Bangladesh. What do you think it should be doing? Because obviously, escalation is only going to hurt these refugees further, but something needs to stop it as well.
Indeed. Well, the protection of civilian life has to be the ultimate priority in any of these situations. It's very clear there are international laws, international frameworks about the protection and respect for the human rights of these refugees and their development rights, a full range of rights to which they are, they're due to be respected. Having said that, there has to be some kind of regional involvement. You've seen ASEAN sitting on its hands, doing absolutely nothing. It's got this completely failed 5-point consensus, which has produced absolutely nothing but instability, gross human rights violations inside the country. You've got the UN Security Council hamstrung by the threat of a Chinese and a Russian veto. So the world community has to find a new paradigm. There has to be proper involvement of the UN envoy. She has not visited places like China, India, and Japan, the big powers that have some chance in bringing some kind of an order stability. So we need a new paradigm, everything, the political, the strategic, the diplomatic, the humanitarian. Everything needs to be rethought. Cross-border aid must come through from Thailand. We need to see proper involvement of the United Nations such that it lives up to the responsibility, the much vaunted responsibility to protect. Because as things stand now, Myanmar is simply a byword for diplomatic, political, humanitarian and development failure. That has to end because too many civilian lives are at risk now.
Very well put. Chris Gunness, for that, we thank you.
Thank you so much.